have loads of religious friends, though. Like, surprisingly, I have... Well, I mean, I have some... I know some religious people. I know a religious person, and we have a lot of discussions. He's a friend of mine, and we get very boring over dinner. And I get the feeling that he worries about me because his faith brings him such joy, and he sees such beauty through the filter of this faith, that he thinks my world must be a grey and horrible and bitter and sort of cynical place. But I'm not cynical. I'm very excited about the world. Like I'm just excited about like the more sciencey ideas rather than the magic-y ones, like the theory of evolution, like this amazing theory, Darwin's theory of natural selection. I mean, not only is it, what's the word? Right. That gets a gasp in America. Amazing. The first guy who made that joke 150 years ago, I bet he didn't think it'd still be getting a laugh. Not only is it wicked science, but also it's exciting and beautiful, isn't it? This idea that an individual of a species can be born, like, mutated in a good way. And in the moment of this individual's birth, it holds within its genetic code the potential for its entire species to take a huge evolutionary leap forward, Isn't it brilliant? And doesn't it make you wonder what life would have been like being one of those individual mutant freaks, What do the other kids think? Imagine being the first dude ever to have feet. I think that'd be really tough. I mean, where I went to school, you get teased for wearing the wrong clothes. Imagine turning up with a whole new appendage. I got these. My dad brought them back from Asia. And also what confuses me is how did these individual mutant freaks figure out how to use their new bits? I mean, there was no precedent. Did they just stumble upon their potential purpose by accident? Imagine you're a fish and you're like swimming in the ocean, just hanging out with your school or whatever, like just chilling like fish do. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Tony just goes, I'm getting out. Yeah, I'm freezing. I'm just going to pop out for a bit. Maybe lie on my towel. Bring you an ice cream. Don't bother, Tony, you're a freak. Tony's a freak. Let's go, school. Let's ostracize him for being different. No, don't ostracize me. I'll show you guys. Fuck me. Those are going to come in handy. Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. Come here. And imagine what Tony would think standing there on his brand new feet on the brink of the beginnings of mankind as we know it, if he could look forward just a few short hundreds of millions of years to see one of his descendants, a Palestinian Jew by the name of Jesus, having a nail hammered through his feet, the very feet that Tony provided him with, as like a punishment for having a sort of schizophrenic discourse with a God who was created by man to explain the existence of feet in the absence of the knowledge of the existence of Tony. I think that would have blown his little fishy mind. This fictional religious friend of mine and I, no, he's real. Till the end of the song. we always end up in a stalemate because he always ends conversations the same way. He says, well, Tim, I can't help you. You're just not very open-minded. So I've written him a song which is called, If You Open Your Mind Too Much, Your Brain Will Fall Out. Which I think is brilliant. Unfortunately, I didn't come up with it myself. I read it in a book. So to avoid copyright issues, I've given it a subtitle, which is, Take My Wife! If anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single psychic who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that they are able to read minds. And if anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single astrologer who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that they can predict future human events by interpreting celestial signs. If anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single homeopathic practitioner who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that solutions made up of infinitely tiny particles of good stuff dissolved repeatedly into relatively huge quantities of water have a consistently higher medicinal value than a similarly administered placebo. And if anyone can show me one example in the entire history of the world of a single spiritual or religious person who's been able to show either empirically or logically the existence of a higher power with any consciousness or interest in the human race or ability to punish or reward humans for their moral choices, or that there is any reason other than fear to believe in any version of an afterlife, I will give you my piano, one of my legs, and my wife.